Hello, viewers at home. Welcome back to another marriage talk show, edition 23. Yeah! In the house today, I have my wonderful sister. Actually, husband was on the show like 2, 3 weeks ago, and he shut at the table. Today, I have my sister in the house, which I am praying that is not going to beat my brother. But let's find out.
It's not a competition.
But before I introduce my sister to you, the audience, the viewers at home, would like to give you a shout out. Welcome to this show, and thank you so much for always joining us and tuning in. If you're new to this show, this is Married Talk Show, edition 23. If marriage is hard work, and we would like to give you a shout out. Let us know where you're joining from so that we can give you a shout out. And now back to my guest, my wonderful sister. You are in today for the show. I hope you're going to shout at the table today, just like my brother did, right?
Well, we'll try by the grace of God.
Anyway, my viewers at home, the name of my sister is Jumoke, and we are here live in Phoenix, Arizona. And I'm going to read my sister profile to you so that we can give her a flower. Yeah. So my sister Jumoke, she is a certified relationship, sex, and intimacy coach, and a certified sexologist. Sexologist. Yeah. So if you ever need any advice about relationship, intimacy, check out my sister Andrew. We already put that playing, and you can always connect with my sister on all our social media page. She's on Instagram, on YouTube. Please take good advantage of this and reach out to my sister. To my sister, thank you so much. It's such an honor to have you, to bring you on this show. I know you're very, very busy, but thank you so much for joining the show.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, my sister. Do you have anything you want to tell the viewers at home before we dive into today's show?
Oh, no, just, thank you for tuning in. It's going to be amazing. I'm glad that, she has been doing this 23 now, right?
23.
That is amazing just to hear diverse people give their perspective about marriage, because not one marriage is the same. So this is great work.
Thank you so much, my sister. I really, really appreciate you coming on the show today. Anyway, and you can't beat my brother. I'm still on that.
Well, that's why we're one, right? So it's like a compensation, right? Okay. Whatever he did not, I'm just continuing from there.
Did you hear that?
Exactly.
Oh, yeah, that's good. I really, really love that. Anyway, for everyone that has been on this show, I always ask them 2 questions, and I'll let you run the show. So the first question I normally ask them is, what do they think marriage is all about? And the second question is, do you think marriage requires a hard work? Over to you, my sister, and we're here.
Oh, those are great questions. For me, when I think about marriage, it's about 2 imperfect people coming together. They have unique perspective, come from different backgrounds, different experiences, different pain, and even they could be different age group. So there is so much diversity in 2 human beings coming together to do life together, to do challenges together, to learn each other's good, bad, ugly, all of it. And we come with so much baggage into marriage. Wow. So it is not, truthfully, people say it's not for the faint of heart. And I do agree with that because, and you hear me say this probably so many oftentimes, is it requires learning, growing, being adaptable, and being intentional.
Wow.
Those 3 things and intentionality is paramount in marriage.
Wow.
So because we're not one, it's not a one size fit all. right? Even with coaching and counseling, it is not one size fit all.
Wow.
Because the way I would coach you will be different from how I would coach somebody else, because you bring different perspective, different personalities into the marriage. And so it has to be tailored to your situation.
Wow.
It has to be tailored to this other person's situation. And that's where it can be actually very effective. Now, there are some basic rules and principles that we use. Typically, what I would say, even I have people that I coach premarital coaching, and what I spend a lot of time doing is teaching relationship skills to sustain marriage.
Wow.
Because the issues within marriage would change. It's like, have you ever played whack-a-mole before?
Yes.
It's like something pops up and you whack it, it goes down, it comes up and you whack it again. That's how the challenges of marriage pops up. And so it is not about just trying to fix this problem and then you try to fix that problem. It'll keep going. But if you have the skills, the foundational skills needed in marriage, it makes it much easier to sustain your marriage.
Wow.
So that's what marriage is, you know, two people coming together, imperfect. I always describe my husband as the imperfectly perfect husband, right? So he's imperfect, but perfect for me,
For you.
right? Do we have our ups and downs? Oh, yes, definitely. But it's always remembering that we're not, you know, we're not each other's enemy, right? We're friends. We are doing life together. We have kids together. We can't just discard each other. Right? So that's what that is about. Now, the question is marriage hard work? So, you know, permit me, viewers, to go a different route from anybody else. And I don't know if everybody else has said this, but I don't believe marriage is hard work.
Wow.
I know that's different from what my husband has said, but let me kind of put that into perspective for you.
Okay.
It's not so much hard work. It's more of, it's not without effort. It is not effortless. So let me give an example. Somebody who works in like missions, right? A lot of what they do is hard work. Right?
Yes.
It takes effort. It takes, you know, they have to be there. Some of them are even in the middle of war. But if you ask them, a lot of them, and say, tell me a little bit about your job, then most of them would not describe it as it's hard work. They're going to say, oh my God, it is very fulfilling. They would say, it gives me purpose. Right? So does that mean that they don't have to put the work into it? But the effort, the way you see the effort is how you determine, is it beneficial or does it really look like hard work to you? So when we think about marriage, it's more about the effort, not necessarily if it's hard work or not. So let's liken it to a job. Right? You get a new job. And most of us, you know, you get a new job. You're so excited to start the new job. You go and Google, oh my gosh, what should I be thinking my first 30, 60, 90 days? And you see all this advice about it. You go, you get to start the job. You start to learn.
Yes.
You learn. You learn about the culture. You learn about the role. You learn about your teammates. If you're a leader, you learn about the dynamics of your team. And you just keep learning. And then when you're done learning, you start saying, okay, what exactly is the culture and the behavior of this company? And if you look at a lot of companies, there are key skills that are embedded values and principles that are embedded in their culture. And a lot of them, you will see effective communication.
Yes.
You would see adaptability. You will see relationship building. You will see driving results. And then guess what you're going to do as a person? You're going to go learn. You're going to learn, how can I communicate better? How can I do conflict resolution? How is it that, I can talk to my team, without sounding like I'm the worst boss ever? You start to learn. And then things start to get better. Things start to get easier. You learn active listening. You learn all these skills. And they work. They work. We are different at work. We're different in the way we treat our boss. We're different with the way we treat our friends or people around outside of our marriage, outside of home. But those skills apply at home. They apply in your marriage. You just have to learn. You have to learn them. You have to grow. You have to be adaptable. Because the woman or the man you married is not the same man 1 year from now. Is not going to be the same man 5 years from now. Is not going to be the same woman, she's not going to be the same woman 20 years from now. There are changes that happen, right? And that the expectation changes. Once you change, maybe you change your behavior, you change your lifestyle, something changes. And you have to, as couples, be adaptable to that. So, going back to the effort, one of the greatest things that make people get to the point where they're like, this is so much work, is because they don't feel like they can go any further. They feel like this has become a thorn in my flesh. Or it's this, I have a webinar coming up soon. It's called like a marital tug of war, right? Where you're constantly fighting. You're constantly arguing, probably about the same thing over and over and over again. But there's some things that if we as married couples can step back and think about, why are we fighting? Why can't we listen to each other? It is because we come with so many baggages. I know my husband said that part. So I'm going to say it again because I agree with it. We all come with baggages into marriage and we don't deal with it. And we don't even, like some of us don't even know we have it. But we do come with it. The way you were brought up. The way you were, Nigerians, I'll use Nigerians as an example. When we talk sometimes, our pitch goes higher. Yeah. When we're passionate about something. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Now, bring that into marriage. The other day, my husband and I were talking, and my daughter goes, Mom, Dad, stop arguing. And we're like, no, we're passionately talking. We're not arguing. We're passionately talking. Right? But look at that upbringing. Right? Luckily for me, I married a Nigerian who probably is used to the fact that we have elevated pitches. But if I was married to somebody else, and when we're talking, and I'm talking passionately, and my pitch is going higher and higher, which, again, it's not a good thing. Like, you have to be able to control your pitch when you're communicating. But if he doesn't know that, then all he's going to see is like, why are you yelling at me? That's a baggage on its own. Because when you're having conflict, which is inevitable, first of all, conflict is a good thing. If you're running away from conflict, conflict is a good thing. It brings growth. But it is how we resolve it that matters. So let me step back and let's talk about the effort that goes into marriage. We as couples, we need to learn each other. What makes you happy? What makes you tick? What is the thing that I would say or do that once I say it or do it, I cannot get your attention, or you go into flight mode. But again, it's something you have to be vulnerable to talk about. Vulnerability is key. Like you have to be willing to share. You have to be willing to just lay it out. And in return, right, if I'm laying something out before my husband, he needs to be able to have empathy and just listen and listen with understanding, right? No judgment-free zone. This is how I was raised. It could be bad, but all my life, maybe I've seen it as good or as that's the norm, right? But how do we walk through it together? How do we go through healing together? It's essential. Like, you know, learn, be vulnerable, communicate with one another, and then also leverage each other's strength. So I'll give you an example of why I say marriage is not hard work and it's just the effort. So my husband loves to cook. Ching ching. My husband loves to cook. And sometimes even when I cook, if I cook something new, he'll be like, how did you cook that? I'll give him the recipe. And then he'll take it and even make it better. So breakfast, and again, no judgment here, but breakfast, my husband, most of the time, 90% of the time, he's the one that takes care of breakfast, right? Because we kind of switch in the morning between, okay, we shower, you go shower, I'll do breakfast, and he does breakfast. And we've talked about this, but not once has he ever thought that this is hard work. Like, why do I have to be the only one making breakfast for the kids or making breakfast for you? But do you know why that is? It's because he loves doing it. He finds fulfillment in this. So when it comes to that part of marriage, that's not hard work for him. That's like blessing in disguise. He's in his element when he's cooking. Like he even wanted to go to culinary school. But he's in his element, right? So it doesn't become hard work, right? I like doing laundry. Do you know why? Because I'm very picky about the whites, the colored, and all of it. So in that case, right, when it's time to, if I have to do laundry, I don't see that as hard work. Because it's not, right? So again, it's about leveraging each other's strength in marriage. Making sure that both of you are enjoying the things that you do. And then, does that mean there will not be gaps where you absolutely hate doing dishes and then your husband hates doing dishes? That's an opportunity where you both can decide, we do dishes together. Yeah. Honestly, this is like a good example. When I first married my husband, he said, you know what would be great? He says, I always love if we shower in the morning and in the evening. And I looked at him like, you are who? Like, I'm tired. I just want to go to bed. Like, really. And he goes, the benefits. Like, it's, you get to go to bed, you feel like a baby, you sleep well. And I'm like, okay. I thought this man was joking until we had kids. And he will want us to bathe the kid in the morning and in the evening. And when he said that, I looked at him and was like, okay, I get when you were saying about us. But now, for me to now spend time in the evening bathing the kids. And he's like, no, I'll help you. And I said, yeah, but that's not the point. The point is, now I have to bathe the kids every night and in the morning. But you know what? It was easier for me to do and get into that routine because he stepped up. We bathe the kids together. And so, except if maybe he's not feeling too well or I'm not feeling too well, but we bathe the kids together. And so it became not so much work. It just became more of like our bonding time, right? Where we bathe, we put them to bed, we interchange. Oh, you know, I'll cream this one now while you're showering that one. And then we switch and switch like that till the night is over. And so because we were doing it together, it didn't feel like so much work anymore. It just felt like, this is fun. Right? So it's finding those avenues. Because truth be told, one person should not be more stressed than the other. Now, does that mean that every time it's going to be 50-50? No. Right? It's just dependent on what's going on in the other person's life this this week or this month. So we need to talk. What's your schedule like this week? I need help with this. Speaking about help, here's another thing that makes marriage so much hard for some people. They don't vocalize expectations.
Wow.
Unsaid expectations is a recipe for disappointment.
Wow.
And some people will say, well, but he should know better, or she should know better. I am not a mind reader. Like, I am absolutely not a mind reader. But it helps when you go, babe, can you please help me with this? And this is what it would do for me if I get that help. Right? And so it doesn't hurt to just say your expectation. And then if it's an unrealistic expectation, then you can talk about it. But if you're sitting down there and you're washing dishes and you're like, you can't even come and give me a hug. Or you can't even come and help me. Or you can't, you would wait there tired. He probably would even go to the couch and watch TV because he's thinking, oh, she got this.
She got it.
I don't got it. Hey, babe. Oh, can you come rub my shoulder or something? But it's talking. Right? It is, marriage needs consistency. And it thrives on investment. You have to invest. Invest your time. Invest even your money. And I'm not talking about gifts here. I'm talking about in learning. How do you invest? Right? Yesterday, I went for a woman's Bible session. And we're studying this book. It's called Don't Let Me Count to 3. It's a parenting, it's a Christian parenting book. And, you know, after the session, I was like, oh no, we have to have this. And then I was talking to one of my couples friends today, and I told both of them, I'm like, you have to go get that book. That's some of those investments that you make. Right? So it's not about just, you know, gifts and like, how do you invest in learning? How do you invest in, you know, we talked about a, you know, marriage boot camp, marriage retreats, you know, just together, take the weekend and just go, right? How do you invest in your marriage? We invest in our career. We invest in our children. We invest in our parents. We invest in our friends. We invest everywhere else. But when it comes to investing in our marriage, it's like, no, that wisdom should fall from heaven. But it's not the case. We need to learn. We need to even be willing to grow as a person. And where growth is where two things is about growing yourself and also letting God change you. Okay, for people that are not yet married, I'm going to say this. Don't get into a marriage thinking, oh my God, I will change him or I will change her. That is like, first of all, the first mistake you would ever make getting into marriage. You cannot change anybody.
Wow.
Even me changing myself, it's hard. Not to talk of changing somebody else. Like that is like the first mistake you can ever make. I learned a long time, and again, it's not that it's easy doing this, but I've also learned that you have to tell God to show you who you are. But not also that is, God, let me see my spouse through your lens. Have you imagined how God sees your husband? It's different. He sees, that lens is with grace. So as married couple, we need to give each other grace. That also helps in making it effortless. Grace and forgiveness. Be ready to give grace and be ready to receive grace. Be ready to give forgiveness and be ready to receive forgiveness. I'm going to deviate your thing a little bit here.
Go ahead.
You know, it's interesting. Sometimes we say, no, I'm going to hold off from being intimate with my spouse because I'm mad at him or because I'm mad at her. Mostly it's always the women that are mad at the men. But my question is, if you don't solve that problem, you probably had it before. Now you're having it again. So you are still going to get over it at some point in time. So why punish yourself? It's a choice. Everything we do in marriage, or the way we think, the way we act, the decisions we make, we not have to tell us, love your neighbors. Right? You have to make that choice. Making the choice to love making the choice to extend grace, making the choice to forgive. Does that mean you're not going to solve the problem? No, you don't want to sweep the problem under the carpet. But it's giving time for change to happen. If I've been doing this all my life, how do you think that you're going to change 40 years worth of behavior or attitude in 1 year or in 1 month? No. And even if somehow, by God's grace, I change, there are days where I might sleep. You extend that grace to your spouse. It's very... The other thing I would say about the effort we put into marriage is taking the time to think about, how can I make this woman enjoy marriage? How can I make this man enjoy marriage? Being selfless, which is hard for us as human beings. Everything needs, what is in it for me? It's human nature. What is in it for me? Something has to be in it for me. If I'm not happy, why should I make you happy? Right? So, but we have to learn to be selfless. You don't treat someone bad because they treat you bad. Right? So, how do they want to be treated? Now, people will say, oh, treat people the way you want to be treated. No. Don't treat me the way you want to be treated. I want you to treat me the way I want to be treated. Because there is a difference. In the beginning, we talked about marriage being different per person. It's not one size fits all. I can come and say, hey, here's a marriage advice that worked for me. Right? Here, go try it. And you go try it, and your husband will be like, what's wrong with you? Are you okay? The best person to tell you how to make your marriage work. Right? This would be contrary to the fact that a coach is telling you this, but it is what I would tell you. It's like the best person to tell you how to make your marriage work is your spouse themselves. They know themselves. And if they don't know themselves, then that's a gap. They need to go and know themselves. But I think sometimes we just don't hear and we don't listen. And we sometimes don't listen to understand. If your spouse is saying something to you, like, oh, I would like this. Right? I like using examples. The other day, the kids were coming with daddy, and the kids said, oh, we should stop by and get flour for mommy. And my husband got home. And then when he entered the house, he told me, he said, babe, your kids were telling me to go get flour for you. And I said, and you came back to this house without the flour. Somebody gave you good advice. And you came into the house without the flour. And he was like, they said it jokingly. I'm like, no, they didn't say it jokingly. Sometimes our spouse already tells us. Well, we sometimes don't listen, maybe because it makes us uncomfortable. Or just because maybe we're not ready to do it. Right? So we want to be very intentional. Babe, how can I make your life easier this week? I have a very busy schedule this week. But I know you also have a very busy schedule this week. How can I make things easier for you this week? And then you slot that somewhere in your own calendar. And vice versa. The person that can tell you how to please your husband is your husband. The person that can tell you how to please your wife is your wife. Start there. You just have to listen, learn, grow, adapt with the flow, and be intentional. That's like my motto. Learn, grow, adapt, be intentional. Because we're not stagnant people. So your marriage should not be stagnant either. It can't be. If you talk to people that have been married for 1 year, something changed within a year. Do you know what normally changes? They went, no, not even that. They went away from the honeymoon phase. They got busy. How do you adapt to that change? How do you still find time for each other within that chaos? Right? And then you go 5 years down the line, something else changed. So it's interesting because I had a conversation recently with someone close to me, and they had just lost weight, right? And she was like, why? Like, I'm expecting him to still say, you look amazing. You look sexy. And I said, yeah, you look different. Give him time, right? And I said, give him time. But you also have to tell him that is now the new level we are in. I have stepped up my game. I have lost the weight. Have you seen me? With all the effort I've put into losing this weight, you better be telling me I look superb. I love that skirt. So people change. Expectation change. And so you have to be willing to keep learning and keep growing. It is very important. Right? I can't stress this enough when it comes to marriage and the effort you have to put into it. You have to think about this as, this is something that I want to do. This is something I want to feel fulfilled in. What would it take? Now, I could be doing all the work on my own. And if my husband doesn't do any work, it makes the relationship not balanced. It'll take more effort than it should. And then that's when we get to the, this is hard work. So we got to be careful that we're growing together. We're learning together, right? We're adapting to the change and the challenges that come our way together. It has to be together. Together. It cannot just be by yourself. You have to bring the other person along on the change going on in your life, and they also the change going on in their life, and the change you want to have, you want to do together. It's very important.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a whole lot of wealth of wisdom.
I'm just continuing from all the gracious goodness my husband has poured out.
I said it that we were in for today. We're in for something today. Thank you so much, my sister. That was a whole lot of words of wisdom right there. So we can't just stop learning. We have to keep growing.
Yep.
learn each other, be intentional, because life itself is changing.
It's changing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we have to spice things up.
Oh, we have to really spice things up.
So,
I would also say that it is okay to love without losing yourself. It is actually mandatory to be in a marriage. Love your spouse, but not lose yourself. And that, how do you do that? Self-care. Okay, you and I were here. We're doing our own thing.
Yeah.
My husband is playing tennis. Right?
Yeah, yeah.
He can go do his own thing. Right? And I can join him, or I can do my own thing. You have to have life outside of the bubble of you and your husband, or you, your husband and your children, or you and your children. Because when you do that, then it also removes resentment from marriage. Because you get to, sometimes, we see people get to the point where they're like, I can't even look at myself anymore. I don't know what happened to me. I got married and everything just fell apart. All I do is cook, clean, do this, do that. It's all about them. But it shouldn't be that way. It shouldn't. And that's how you communicate. Oh, babe, I need to do this. Oh, I need to go do my pedicure, my manicure. All right? Oh, I'm hanging out with the girls today. My husband, please, go and even hang out. Go. Have fun. Go. And so I can take my hand and read my book or do my own thing. Right? It's still taking care of yourself. If you don't love yourself, you can't love somebody else. And here's the truth. If you don't love yourself, or if you don't see yourself in a certain way, it'll be hard for you to even believe your spouse when they say something good about you. That's part of the baggage that we bring into marriage.
Baggage.
Like, I can't believe my spouse, if all my life somebody has said, oh, you're worthless, or you're this, you're that. And then my husband come and go like, I am so proud of you. I am so proud of you. You've brought so much into this marriage, and sometimes you might just think, what's he talking about? Because you've heard it over and over again that you're worthless. Or that you're not beautiful. And then your husband go, I married you because you're beautiful. Oniro. So you just want something. What do you want? Because we've been told a lie. And sometimes it's the opposite too. Maybe even the outside world has told you a lie. Right? And say, oh, you're nice, you're so sweet. And then your husband is saying, you're disrespectful. And you won't believe it. Because guess what? Everybody else tells you you're good. So, how do you take time to listen to each other and how that person is feeling about the relationship, about you? And how can you work together to sort it out and what works best for you? And if you can't, bring in a third party. Right? People get counselors when their marriage is already falling apart.
Hmm.
I say get a counselor even before he does.
Hmm. 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 Hmm.
Because sometimes you just need to bounce. You and your husband, or you, your husband and your children, or you and your children. Not the problem. The problem is because not both of them are not wrong. They're not wrong. It's either way. But you have to think about it that we have different perspective. We're seeing things from different lens. And so if you understand that, learning to shift your perspective in the moment. There are some battles you don't want to die on that hill at all. Like you don't need to die on that hill. All you need to do is understand the hill. Understand that it's going to take some climb. But you don't die on it. You think about it, you look, it's like he left the toilet roll up again and you flip if it bothers you that much. Humor is one thing that we need in marriage. Having a sense of humor to just laugh out some things.
Wow.
Learn, grow, adapt, and be intentional.
Wow. That was a whole lot of wealth of wisdom, my sister. Thank you so much for pouring out, for being you without even holding back. And you were also intentional in helping our married couples out there to learn, and also the young adults to also learn. I have some questions for you before we round it up. Thank you so much, my sister. You said so much within 50 minutes. Anyway, I have some questions for you. But before we ask that question, let us go on a short break. To the viewers at home, we will be right back. Let us go on a short break. Thank you. Please stay tuned. For thou, Lord, art a shield for me. You're my glory, the lifter up of my head. And as I prayed, I said, God, because you're my glory, nobody can tamper with you. Because you are my glory. Who can tamper with the glory of God? Who can take the glory of God? He says, you are my glory. You are my glory. You are the one that lifts my head. I don't know who needs lifting this morning. God wants me to let you know that He is your glory. Who can tamper with the glory of God? Who can tamper with the Lord? Who can stop the Lord? For thou, Lord, art a shield for me. My glory, you lift my head. For thou, oh Lord, art a shield. You're Welcome back, viewers at home. Thank you so much for staying tuned with us after we went on that short break. Thank you so much. And now back to you, my sister. I have two questions for you before we round up the show. Again, you've said a lot, and we really, really appreciate you for all what you've said. The focus of this show, we only have two goals. And the first goal is that we want the married couples to remain married, to stay married. And the second focus is to help the young adults out there to make the right decision, especially in the terms of choosing who to marry, why they embrace this beautiful institution called marriage. So, my two questions for you, I think I'll start with the young adults. What will be your advice to young adults out there who are facing one or two things like pressure from parents, from uncles, from aunties, like, who are you dating? When are you going to bring that person up? And they are on the brink or the verge of making the wrong decision because they don't really know what marriage is all about or entails. They just believe that it's just that one day celebration. What will be your advice to them regarding that? And then the second question would be for the married couples. I know you've been married for almost 15 years.
Wow, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than a decade. So, and also as a relationship coach, you are in the best position to advise the married couples out there and the younger adults. What will be your general advice for everyone, the people that are married and the people that are looking up to this wonderful institution to embrace it? What will be your advice?
This is a great question.
Thank you.
Let's start with the people that are being pressured to get into marriage. Mm-hmm. Marriage is not something that you get into without an understanding of what you're getting into. Right? A lot of times people get into marriage just thinking that I just want to be happy. Like, I'm going to be happy. I want to be happy. And that's their goal. Mm-hmm. And then they have a list of all the things that they think will make them happy. But it's not about that. And so being pressured into getting into this institution without you having, first of all, even if you're dating somebody already, you need to talk. Talk about anything and everything, your family dynamics. You talk about your strength, talk about your weakness. And that's why they talk about counseling, right? And you go through coaching, learning. So with my premarital coaching, what I do, very first thing I do is have the engaged couples take a relationship assessment. It talks about your family dynamics, your relationship dynamics, what you think about the other person, right? Your parental expectation, your spiritual expectation. It talks about a whole lot of things. Your social style. It assesses every single area of your life, right? Abuse, right? Were your parents abusive or your uncles, or just it dips into every area of your experience and your upbringing and what your expectation is. And then I use that to tailor the coaching uniquely for them, using that assessment to guide and work on those skills they need to build. Because sometimes, as you know, we're about to get into marriage and you're like, oh, I want someone who has money. I want someone who has a car. My first question, or like, oh, I want someone who has a great job. My question is, if you marry that person today and in 2 days' time the person gets fired and they no longer have a job, Is that the end of the marriage? Or worst case scenario, right? Or, that's not even the worst case scenario. And I pray that we don't experience it. You get married to this person, and then something happens, you get into an accident, they can't walk anymore. Is that the end of the marriage? Those are part of challenges in marriage. That is the real till death do us part, in sickness and in health, that we confess so freely. So you see all those things that we say we like about marriage, or we want in marriage, or we want our husbands tall, dark, and handsome. Have you ever thought about tall, dark, and pot belly? Right? Have you ever thought about the woman going through pregnancy and all of it sudden gain all this weight and it's so hard to lose again? Have you thought about all of that? So again, before you get pressurized into going into marriage, you have to decide for yourself, what of myself am I willing to give into this marriage? Am I ready to be selfless in this marriage? Am I ready to learn the skills in this marriage? Am I ready to be vulnerable with this person in this marriage? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. And then talk with that person. If you're engaged to somebody, you guys talk about financial management. Right? You talk about how you want to spend, how you don't want to spend, or who are you catering to. Like, this is even the wedding itself. People, their problem starts even on the wedding day, or even before the wedding, when they are trying to plan a wedding and trying to spend more than they can afford. Or there's so many things. So ask yourself, are you ready to be selfless? Because marriage is not just about you. It's about giving your all to it. And in return, receiving. Right? So that's my advice, is you got to know yourself, and you have to know what you're willing to do in that marriage. Because if you're not willing to learn, if you're not willing to grow, if you're not willing to put in the effort, then don't even bother yourself. Don't even bother. And then for our married couples, when you're thinking about, so how do you want to, the goal when I think about marriage is being in a healthy and sustaining marriage. Because sometimes you hear people that say they've been married for 23 years, but it's been 23 years of toxicity. 23 years of beating. Please, for our viewers, if you are in a toxic relationship where you are being physically abused, please, here's my advice. Do not stay. Now, does that now mean you have to get a divorce? No. You can be separated for a while. And this is where you would hear some Christians go, oh no, we have to pray. We have to pray. You know, you cannot go anywhere. Please stay there and you pray for him every night. We will pray for him too. Or, you know, and sometimes it's the woman that is abusing the man. So it's not just a man physically abusing. Sometimes you will see women slap their husbands, right? That's also physical abuse. And, you know, people will be like, I'll pray until she takes that knife and do something to you because she's hungry. It is okay to separate for a while you're doing that fasting and prayer. So now back to your question though. How do we sustain? How would we live in a healthy and sustainable marriage? It is those skills. Communication. How do you practice active listening? Listening to one another. Not listening just to respond, but listening, understanding, asking clarifying questions. Because misunderstanding is one of the greatest issues we have in marriage. Communicate. learn conflict resolution skills.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
And don't sweat the small stuff.
Mm. 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 Mm.
The other thing is, think about the roots of your issues. Because what you're fighting about is not really what you're fighting about. I'm mad at you because you don't take out the trash. Is it really because of the trash? Because I can just take the trash out. It's more about the fact that the person doesn't feel heard. Right? They feel taken for granted. Which is bigger than the trash. Because today is the trash, tomorrow is going to be something else. So it's understanding the roots of the problem. And then also just bring some fun and spontaneity into your marriage. Life is too short. Enjoy it. Right? Intimacy, understand the intimacy style of your partner. There are people that they have to be stimulated intellectually. There are people like that. It's like emotional intimacy, it doesn't even faze them. They are not emotionally driven at all. And some, it's not the physical intimacy either. But have an intellectual conversation with them. It does something to them. It turns them on. It's different. So learning the style, intimacy style of your partner, what is that foundational style for them? Have fun. Find new ways to enjoy each other. Find new ways to smile at each other. Right? So it's